Hi everyone, I am Lakshmi K.S. from Radhagiri School of Engineering and Technology. In this lecture, we will discuss about the security concerns in cloud computing environments. So, we will discuss the methodology for ensuring application and data security for those resources that are moving from on-premises to public cloud environments. Our discussion mainly focuses on why and how these resources should be protected in software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service environments. Cloud service providers are leveraging virtualization technologies combined with self-service capabilities for computing resources through internet. So in this service provider environments, virtual machines from multiple organizations have to be co-located on the same physical server in order to maximize the efficiency offered by virtualization process. Cloud service providers must learn from the managed service provider model, that is MSP model, and ensure that customers' application and data are secured in the cloud computing environment. So security is a main concern in cloud computing environment, and that is the greatest challenge that needs to be addressed by the cloud service providers. Moving critical applications and sensitive data to public and shared cloud environment is of great concern, since they are moving the data beyond the data center's network perimeter defense. So naturally, the cloud consumers will be more concerned about the security of these data and applications. So to reduce these concerns, a cloud solution provider must ensure that customers will continue to have the same security and privacy controls over their applications and services. And they must be able to provide evidence to customers that their organization and customers are secure and they can meet their service level agreements, and that they can prove compliance to auditors. In this figure, you can see the IDC survey conducted among 244 IT executives and CIOs and their line of business colleagues. So this was done to find out the opinions and understand the company's use of IT cloud services. So from the figure, it is clear that security is ranked as the first and greatest challenge or issue of cloud computing. Today, enterprises are looking towards cloud computing possibilities in order to expand their on-premises infrastructure. But most of them cannot afford the risk of compromising the security of their applications and data. That is what is clear from this figure. Let us review the concepts of the three major cloud computing service provider models. As we have seen in the previous modules, software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service are the three major cloud computing service provider models. So what is software as a service? It is a model of software deployment in which an application is licensed for use as a service. So the customers can use that particular service on demand, and it will be provided by the cloud providers. The on-demand licensing and use release the customer of the burden of equipping a device with every application that are needed to be used. Gartner predicts that 30% of new software will be delivered through the SaaS model by 2010. It was a prediction done during 2000. So, as of now, there was tremendous change in the usage of software as a service environment. So between 2015 and 2017, the average number of SaaS apps used by organizations have doubled. That is as per the new researchers, and the incredible growth in the SaaS sector is increased due to the number of startups founded in emerging economies like India. So in India, according to 2017 report, there are 55 new SaaS startups in the year 2017. So we can see that there is a tremendous change in the usage of software as a service. Then coming to the platform as a service model, it is an outgrowth of the SaaS application delivery model. Whenever we need to use a software, we need some platform. So with the PaaS model, all of the facilities required to support the complete life cycle of building and delivering web applications as well as services are available to developers, IT managers as well as end users. So they do not need to download software or install software in their system. PaaS is sometimes also known as cloudware, and it include workflow facilities for application design, application development, testing, deployment, hosting, as well as application services such as team collaboration, web service integration and marshing, database integration, scalability, storage, persistence, state management, application versioning, etc. So these are some of the usages of PaaS, and according to Gartner report, by 2018, the top 5 IaaS providers will nearly have 77% of the global IaaS market. And the firm also predicted that by end of 2019, more than 30% of technology providers' new software investments will be shifted to cloud. So these are the latest reports given by Gartner. Infrastructure as a service is the delivery of computer infrastructure as a service. Typically, a platform virtualization environment is provided. So these virtual infrastructure stacks are an example of the everything as a service trend, and it shares many of the common characteristics. Rather than purchasing servers, software, data center space or network equipment, clients buy these resources as a fully outsourced service. The service is typically built on a utility computing basis, and the quantity of resources consumed reflects the level of activity. So it is an evolution of web hosting and virtual private server offerings. Inspired by the IT industry's move towards SaaS, in which software is not purchased but rented as a service from the providers, IT as a service is being proposed to take this concept further. That is, to bring the service model into the IT infrastructure. The modern IT organization must run itself as a separate operation and become more strategic in operational decisions. Many organizations are in the process of transforming their IT departments into self-sustaining cost center operations. So the internal users will be treated as customers. And this transformation is not trivial. It usually involves elements of project portfolio management, workflow re-engineering and process improvement. And the transformation can take several years to be completed. When we are able to use IT as a service in a proper manner, then customer-centric IT department can be developed with increased productivity, and it drives up project success rates and creates a higher profile for technology within the organization. And there are some key financial benefits in moving to an ITaaS model. That is, the IT departments will not have to incur capital cost, having a transparent monthly pricing plan, scalability, and reasonable cost of expansion. So operational benefits of IT as a service include increased reliability because of the centralized infrastructure. So it can ensure that critical services and applications are monitored continually. Software flexibility, data security are other important advantages of IT as a service. Now we will discuss some of the challenges in cloud security. We know that virtualization and cloud computing environment are helping companies to break the physical bond between the IT infrastructure and their users. But still, security threats exist, and it is particularly true for SaaS provider. For example, in the cloud, we lose control over assets in some respect, so we need to reassess the security model. With the cloud model, we lose control over physical security. In a public cloud, we are sharing the computing resources with other companies. And in a shared pool outside the enterprise, we don't have any knowledge or control of where the resources run. So exposing our data in an environment shared with other companies could give the government reasonable cause to seize your assets because another company has violated the law. Simply because you share the environment in the cloud may put your data at risk of seizure. So that is one of the greatest challenge in cloud computing environment. Then storage services provided by one cloud vendor may be incompatible with another vendor's services. So such type of services are called sticky services. That is, services that an end user may have difficulty in transporting from one cloud vendor to another vendor. For example, Amazon's simple storage service. It is incompatible with IBM's Blue Cloud or Google or Dell. So such type of services exist. It is still another problem. So those who adopt cloud computing must remember that it is their responsibility to secure the vulnerable data and not with the service provider. So government policy will need to change in response to both the opportunity and the threats that cloud computing brings. SaaS makes the process of compliance more complicated since it may be difficult for a customer to discern where its data resides on a network controlled by its SaaS provider or a partner of that provider. So it raises all sorts of compliance issues of data privacy, segregation, and security. Compliance with government regulations such as SOX, GLBA, HIPAA, and industry standards such as PCI DSS will be much more challenging in SaaS environment. Outsourcing means losing significant control over data. And while this is not a good idea from a security perspective, the business ease and financial savings will continue to increase the usage of these services. If information is encrypted while passing through the cloud, there is the question of who is controlling the encryption-decryption key. That is whether it is the customer or the cloud vendor. So most customers probably want their data to be encrypted in both ways across the internet using SSL, that is the Secure Socket Layer Protocol. They also most likely want their data encrypted while it is at rest in the cloud vendor's storage pool. So be sure that the customer control the encryption-decryption keys, just as if the data were still resident on their own servers. It is the customer who has to take the control of the encryption decryption process and not the vendor. So that is an important thing. Using SaaS offerings in the cloud means that there is much less need for software development. If you are using a web-based customer relationship management, then it will eliminate the necessity of writing code and customizing a vendor's application. So if you plan to use internally developed code in the cloud, it is even more important to have a formal, secure software development lifecycle. And the immature use of mashup technology, that is the combination of web services, will definitely lead to security vulnerabilities in those applications. And the choice of web development tools should have a security model embedded in it so that the developers can use it as a guide during the development process. And it restricts users from accessing unauthorized data when the system is deployed into production. So that is the advantage of having such models. Cloud applications undergo constant feature additions and users must keep up to date with application improvements. The speed at which applications will change in the cloud will affect the software development lifecycle and security. For example, Microsoft's SDLC assumes that mission critical software will have a 3 to 5 year period in which it will not change substantially. But the cloud may require a change in the application every few weeks. So a secure SDLC will not be able to provide a security cycle that keeps up with changes that occur frequently. This means that users must constantly upgrade because an older version may not function or protect the data. Having proper failover technology is a component of securing the cloud. The company can survive if a non-mission critical application goes offline, but that is not applicable for a mission critical application. Core business practices provide competitive differentiation. So security needs to move to the data level so that enterprises can be sure that their data is protected wherever it goes. Sensitive data is the domain of the enterprise and not the cloud computing provider. One of the key challenges including is data level security. In the virtualized cloud environment, operating system and application files are on a shared physical infrastructure. So it should provide system, file and activity monitoring so that the customers will have confidence that their data have not been compromised or tampered with. In the cloud computing environment, the enterprise subscribes to cloud computing resources and the responsibility for patching is the subscriber's task rather than cloud computing vendors. The need for patch maintenance vigilance is imperative. Lack of due diligence in this regard could rapidly make the task unmanageable or impossible, leaving virtual patching as the only alternative. Enterprises are often required to prove that their security compliance is in accordance with regulations, standards and auditing practices regardless of the location of the systems at which the data resides. Data is fluid in cloud computing and may reside in on-premises physical servers, on-premises virtual machines or off-premises virtual machines running on cloud computing resources. And this will require some rethinking on the part of auditors and practitioners alike. To establish zones of trust in the cloud, the virtual machines must be self-defending. effectively moving the perimeter to the virtual machine itself. Enterprise perimeter security, that is firewalls, demilitarized zones, then network segmentation, intrusion detection and prevention systems, monitoring tools, and the associated security policies only controls the data that resides and transits behind the perimeter. In the cloud computing world, the cloud computing provider is in charge of customer data security and privacy. Cloud computing models of the future will combine the use of SaaS, utility computing, and Web 2.0 collaboration technologies to leverage the internet to satisfy their customers' needs. New business models being developed as a result of the move to cloud computing are creating not only new technologies and business operational processes but also new security requirements and challenges. As the most recent evolutionary step in the cloud service model, SaaS will likely remain the dominant cloud service model for the foreseeable future, and the area where the most critical need for security practices and oversight will reside with SaaS. Determining data security is harder today. So, data security functions have become more critical than they have been in the past. If you encrypt the data using a trusted algorithm, then regardless of the service provider's security and encryption policies, the data will only be accessible with the decryption keys. But this will lead to a problem. That is, how will you manage the private keys in a pay-on-demand computing infrastructure? To address the security issues, SaaS providers will need to incorporate and enhance security practices used by the managed service providers, and they will also have to develop new security policy methods as the cloud computing environment evolves. The technology analyst and consulting firm Gartner lists 7 security issues that are needed to be discussed with a cloud computing vendor. The first one is the privileged user access. It inquires about who has specialized access to data and about the hiring and management of such administrators. The second one is regulatory compliance. Make sure that the vendor is willing to undergo external audits and security certifications. Third one is about data location. Does the cloud provider allow for any control over the location of data? And the fourth one is data segregation. Make sure that encryption is available at all stages and that these encryption schemes were designed and tested by experienced professionals. Next one is recovery. That is, find out what will happen to data in the case of a disaster. Do they offer complete restoration? If so, how long would that take? Sixth point is investigative support. Does the vendor have the ability to investigate any inappropriate or illegal activity? And the last one is long-term viability. What will happen to data if the company goes out of business? How will data be returned and in what format? So, before starting the usage of cloud computing facilities, a consumer should have discussed these 7 points or issues with the cloud computing vendor in order to have a smooth functioning and usage of the cloud computing computing resources. So with this we have come to the end of this lecture. Thank you all.